Morning, everyone. I'm super excited to welcome Nina Harding from Microsoft. Nina, welcome.
Sugata, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a joy to be with you today.
We have been a huge Microsoft fan. As I was just telling you a little bit about my journey with Microsoft, and I'll let you kind of explain your journey, not just at Microsoft, but through the industry. My first exposure to Microsoft is in Honeywell. There was a desktop computer that showed up on our little floor. I was a junior engineer, and nobody was using it. I'm not going to mention how long ago, but it was a long ago. And there was no other computer in the entire building. And I went and clicked it open, and there was Windows 3.1. So my entire journey started there. I led innovation platform at Philips. We had a deep partnership with Microsoft on set-top boxes and other applications. And we've been a developer on the Microsoft platform for almost now 15 years. So it's an incredible honor to welcome you. I'd love to hear a lot about your journey and Microsoft. But before we get going, do you want to take a couple of minutes just to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm Nina Harding, and I am the Corporate Vice President of Microsoft's Global Partner Solutions. What that means is I run an organization here at Microsoft that's focused on our partners and really looking to empower partners to accelerate with customer success and to grow with Microsoft in our business and through enabling the partners, helping to co-sell with partners, and go to market with our partners out to really have a strong impact on our customers. I work across all different types of partners. So we have partners that build IP like ISVs or software development technology companies. We have partners that provide services like system integrators, etc. And we have channel partners. So resellers, distributors, telcos, MSPs, you name it. And I have the privilege to work with all of them in helping them be successful in the market. Our organization is really at the center of Microsoft's DNA from the get-go. And Scotty, you can probably tell because you've been along the journey with Microsoft. Partnering is part of the DNA of this company. And so everything that we do, every product that we launch, every sales play that we bring to our sales force absolutely has partners embedded, intertwined with it to make sure that we're delivering what our customers need the most.
1990, I remember the date now when I think I first got exposed to the Windows computer.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely true. Even then, there were applications like Harvard Graphics and others that were Microsoft partners. And I did have a Mac, so I had Microsoft, application products on the Mac at that time. So can you kind of categorize for us a little bit from an ecosystem perspective? You talked about types of partners, but from a business solutions wise, like productivity apps, then you have, infrastructure apps. Like how is your solution portfolio structured today?
Sure. So Microsoft is across, as you said, many different types of businesses. We provide cloud services like Azure, which many people are familiar with today, as well as productivity tools. So think about Microsoft 365, what we're all used to, right? Office and PowerPoint and a lot of the tools that we use in everyday business environment, as well as business applications. So running the financials and manufacturing and so forth for companies. And increasingly now, we've been at the forefront of AI solutions for individuals, businesses, and governments all around the world. And with that, we have a wide range of partners that either provide services or extension of capability or actually sell these solutions and land them with customers all around the globe. So it's a lot of fun and an exciting business and time.
So you have an amazing background. You were in Microsoft in the early stages of your career, and then you went to SAP, worked there for a long time, and then at Google, major names, and then back in Microsoft. So can you walk us through that journey, maybe from an ecosystem evolution perspective, as you grew, as you led larger and larger team? What happened on the outside? How did that entire ecosystem evolve in your mind?
That's a fun question because unlike a lot of people, I've actually been in the world of partnerships for most of that journey. So 30 years or so, right? So let's hide some and spackle some of the wrinkles. But in that also comes some experience and, to your point, some undulations of what has happened in the market. You're right. Actually started my professional career journey back at Pacific Bell, if you can think about it. So that's dating me a little bit as well. And then to Oracle. And at Oracle, it was a lot of fun because it was really at the beginning. This is early 90s, right? The beginning of the database and then introduction as well of complex data into databases for the first time. And then with Oracle, it was also the introduction of apps, right? When Oracle apps came into the market. On and past that, I was at a startup and ran the business development. So I've been on the small side, right? Where you're really trying to work with these large scale companies and try to find something that's meaningful to them. And how do you go to market with them and leverage the vast market that they've created and introduce your company through that. That company then was subsequently bought by IBM. And then that's the time that I came to Microsoft for the first time. And at Microsoft back in, once again, probably the early 2000s is when I was responsible for the top 200 ISVs. And we worked with micro ecosystems at that time. And that was all about SQL adoption, right? And we were sort of in the war for Windows as well at that time. And from there, I had the opportunity to go to SAP and build SAP's worldwide partner program. So really going on the flip side and trying to think about how do we take all of these different experiences that partners have and create a unified experience with SAP. And that was really fun. I spent about 11 and a half, 12 years, maybe even 13 years. I can't even remember at this point at SAP, focused first on the partner program and then the whole partner ecosystem, and then eventually on the co-sell muscle. So taking solutions and bringing them onto the price list and selling those solutions as core SAP product. That was really fun. That gave me some of my chops in really how to effectively team with partners to sell together. And then from there, I went to Google, had the opportunity to build and launch Partner Advantage, which is their partner program. And then, of course, over the course of time, Microsoft kept calling, and all of a sudden I was like, yep, I miss Microsoft, and Microsoft is just in a really unique place, and I want to be part of that. So that's what brought me back. And when you go back to a company that you've already been at, you know exactly why you're there. You know exactly the opportunity, and you know exactly what you want to do for the partners when you're there. So as far as the evolution, I've seen us move from small, being focused on a small number of partners, to really wanting to light up an entire ecosystem. So this whole breadth or depth question, how prescriptive do companies want to be to the partner versus wanting to lean into the partners helping to pave the future in the way for impact with customers. I've seen a lot of different ebbs and flows, to be honest. But right now, I think is the most exciting time. This is where we're seeing the shift, right, to AI.
Yeah, so I'm going to come back to here, but I do want to spend a few minutes on your leadership journey, because when you're in these incredible brand, in vast ecosystems, you're almost like, a president of a country that is global, and you have democracies to run, because the ecosystem is the ultimate. You have your constituents, you have your cabinet members, you have your ambassador, you have the whole infrastructure, right? So can you tell us a little bit from a leadership perspective, what is similar across these ecosystems, which tend to be different, like Oracle, SAP, Google, and Microsoft? And what is similar and what is different?
That's a great question. I've never actually been asked that. So I would say, what's similar is you're dealing with all sorts of different types of partners and how you interact with the channel versus ISVs versus services. You have to cater to those different audiences and understand what they need and what you can provide and what your mutual value proposition, and then the reality of in each company is how much weight you shift on, right? As far as who has more influence versus the other. So I think the engagement types, trying to work with partners based on their behavior, not necessarily their type of partner. So are they going to sell with you? Are they going to provide services? Are they going to build IP with you? That's very similar. What is also very similar is their interest in understanding, being at the larger company oftentimes, right? Wanting to really understand your strategy and how do they immerse themselves into being part of that strategy. So that's what I found very fascinating. What's different has been the aperture of which each of these branded companies wants to engage the ecosystem and be transparent with the ecosystem on that journey. And while I won't so much talk about the previous ones, I can really talk about Microsoft right now and our thirst to make sure that our partners feel the trust, feel the longevity of a relationship, not just the opportunistic moment, but that the trust and the longevity and the investment is something that we will do over time. And that's when I talk about Microsoft really has partnering as part of its DNA. It's been part of the company since day one. And it's not, hey, let's sell first and then the ecosystem will follow. That to me is one of the differences. I would also say one of the things that I really enjoy about Microsoft and is one of the strengths is that we feel like we want to bring our partners on the journey. They're an extension of Microsoft versus an additional obligation, right? They're an extension. And what that does is it shows up in the way we enable partners, the skilling, the way we bring partners into our sales kickoffs and meetings, the way that we think about threading partners through our sales force and the incentives we bring. So everything we do is very much ecosystem centric to make sure that we're doing it together because we truly believe that we're better together.
So I want to double click on this in both dimension, leadership dimension, and then where
Mhm.
Microsoft is and going. When I look at an incredible, bio like yours, I've done 70 podcasts this year, meeting leaders, and
Mhm.
very few have background like yours with not only big brands, complex roles, and also you stayed to see the impact of your changes, and which I don't see a lot because it's difficult to combine all those three in a human being. So when you take that role, can you tell us a little bit, like when you get into a job like the one that you have in a
Mhm.
highly successful company,
Mhm.
right? The first reaction would be, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because there's so much revenue, so much momentum, so much velocity. And it seems like from your background, you've always taken 3, 4, 5 year outlook and, made a play. So going back to your reward strategy, like, what do you do? What does your first day look like? 100 days look
Mhm.
like? Like, how do you go through that journey, kind of framing in a successful company?
Yeah.
You come in and say, guys, this is what change looks like. And how do you get people rally behind that?
Yeah. Excellent. When I go into a company, you're only green or new for a period of time before you kind of blend and you become part of the company entirely. And that to me is the most magical part of joining a company. It's where you listen the most. It's where I reach out to the partners. I focus so much on partner focus groups, one-on-one dialogues. I want the good, the bad, the ugly. I want the ideas. To me, it's about that outreach, not only with your partners, but also with your teams. So you're right. I love to go in, but I'm a little bit of a change agent. I always am looking for, if we're good, I want to go to great. What's that next click? What does becoming that partner of preference to you really look like? I mean, of course, it's great when our ecosystem says, hey, Microsoft, you're doing a great job on X, Y, and Z. I am like, great, that's awesome. I know not to change too much over here, just tweak. But where aren't we strong? And what does that look like? How can I show up for you better? That is my leadership approach as I go into each of these jobs. I am at times disruptive, I would say, but not necessarily disruptive in a bad way. It's always in advocacy for the partner ecosystem and what can we do better? How do we show up better? And right now, to me, The reason I came back to Microsoft is I saw this AI evolution happening, and I saw the maturity that was coming from Microsoft, and then the maturity and the history of partnering with trust, with integrity, with evolved business models. And I said, I want to be at the intersection of this absolute change moment in technology together with one of the most powerful ecosystems in the world. And I want to help lead that. So to me, that was a change agent moment. And then to be an effective change agent, you have to stay for the change, and then you have to evolve the change and make sure you get it to a place where it's permanent, where there's a legacy around it. And so I'm not a hopper or not a jumper. You're absolutely right. I believe in building, in listening, but building with. And every single one of these companies, I did it always with the partners, which is different than how a lot of companies do it. A lot of times they do it within the towers, right? Or the walls of the company, and then they announce a program. I'm always doing it with the partners. I'm having them test. I'm having them idea evolve, whiteboard with me, look at even wireframes of systems, of websites, go through incentives. To me, it's a bidirectional dialogue because we're building this for the partners. We're building the sales place for the partners to be effective with us. So that's a little bit about my leadership. It's a very collaborative style. It's a very open style, and it is really based on a lot of trust and integrity behind that.
So 2022, October, when you started, that was a pivotal time. The industry sort of came aware of ChatGPT, but Microsoft had already partnered with OpenAI, several years earlier. So talk about that moment, like when you come and then the entire industry focus, media and analysts and customers, they suddenly wake up to this two-letter called AI. What was that moment like? And then you coming in as a change agent saying, okay, this is great. I'm going to keep it. This needs to be better. And here is my pathway, or here's our pathway, inside and outside. Can you kind of walk us through that journey, maybe October through Q1 of 23?
Sure. I think the very first day at Microsoft back, I was introduced to my organization by the predecessor, and someone said, what should we be doing that we're not doing today? And the very first question I said is, have you asked your partner today what makes them successful and what they need to be successful? And I said, it's a very different question than, hey, here are sales goals together. This is what I need you to do. This is what I need you to adopt. With AI coming in, I am so glad that that's the primary question I asked all of the partner development managers to go out into the market with. Because when you are trying to do a sea change of technology adoption, it does take a tremendous amount of enablement, both on the technical side, but also on the sales side and even the marketing side. It's a different dynamic for selling. You're now in a consultative sell motion. You have to become an Imagineer. You have to ask a lot of questions of your client. You're no longer selling a product and a service. You have a technology that's an enabler to where do they want to go? How do they want to bend the curve? That's very different. So to me, it was a very exciting time because what we prioritized with the partners and the kinds of conversations we had to have with the partners were very, very different. It wasn't just about blocking and tackling. Of course you need to do that, but it was also about how do we both innovate? How do we both drive this adoption through our companies? How do they take something like Copilot and bring it through their companies and drive AI adoption internally? There's no way you can sell it. There's no way you can help customers implement it if you're not doing it yourself. And so there's a little bit of that reflection time. There's a little bit of a conversation around, hey, let's be honest with ourselves. How are you doing on this journey? And then how do we go take this journey to our clients together? That's fun. And so it's a game-changing moment, and how you have to show up is very, very different. And I would say at the corner of it is you have to have trust. I've had partners come to me and say, hey, I think I can sell this stuff. I don't know if my team's ready to implement this stuff. So then we show up in true partnership to lean in to help them. That's different than how it's been in the past. And I love it. I absolutely love it. That's what a real partnership is about.
So, in our little company, we're 150 people, completely SaaS focused. And my dad used to say, that you can go to college to get a degree, or you can go to college to figure out how to learn. And the way, we kind of looked at Microsoft is not certification for certification's sake, because the amount of knowledge that Microsoft provides is more than a university. And not just that, it's cutting edge and it's fresh and it's application oriented. So you can actually go in and figure out the hammer and the chisel and the nail, but figure out how to build a cabinet, right? So walk us through a little bit this transformation that we're going through now, right? And that what you just said, instead of selling a thingy reseller to become a solution provider, what are the tools are in place that you're bringing in, and what transformation you're driving internally on your organization side to move into like a constant academy state where you keep learning, keep implementing, because we are using Copilot across the entire business, right? Didn't work in the beginning. We didn't give up. We kept on figuring out. It's a huge knowledge-based tool for us now. And we can see, productivity of the developer has gone up 100%, 200%. QA automation is through the roof, right? So we can see the benefits of those applications. But how do you drive that through these hundreds and thousands of partners that you have, that business in place, revenue in place? What does change look like from your perspective?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? I think all of us, when we first had Copilot, and I'll be honest, myself included, it was like, let me go try a few things. And I was like, I don't know, right? And I cowered is the word I would use, away, right? Because it was new, it was different, and I didn't quite know how to use it. I think I tell a very honest story, whether I am dealing with, I had a meeting with some of the top partners in Canada. And I said, just start with something that's personal to you. Start with writing a poem or a song for a birthday for someone, right? Just start with something simple. And that adoption curve, and then sharing ideas of what are top 10 cool ways to use Copilot, right, in your environment. Have you used it for performance reviews? This is how it happens. Have you used it to coach you on what your top 10 talents are if they've looked at everything that you've done over the last 6 months, right? There's so many different ways you can use it before you even get into the business realm of having it do financial analysis for you or looking around the corner at new business ideas. Now, at Microsoft, how do we do that at large, right? We have a wide range of training opportunities for partners to help them stay up to date with everything that we're doing, with the latest technologies and practices, so we can ensure everyone's moving with us, right? And is on that tip of the curve. We have something called the Level Up program, which is pretty helpful. And that offers self-directed, interactive digital journeys for all the learners out there, tailored specifically for our partners. So it has hands-on labs, it has guided learning journeys, it has badges and recognition. So we have a little bit of the gamification in there, right? That makes it fun for everyone. And then we also have Microsoft AI partner training days, just to make sure that we have the opportunity to bring people together and not only train, but have the conversation around it. And that has been energizing for the community. And then we have a number of in-person events. I've invested far more in my technical talent in my team. So where the distribution of talent has gone much more towards my technical staff that helps all of our partners build out their technical skills or evolve their products with AI. But we've educated and helped to, I would say, turn on the spark, right, for a lot of our partners, over 1 million learners very, very quickly by doing and tackling it all those different ways.
So do you think from adoption wise or diffusion of technology wise, Andre Karpathy, he spoke last week at a YC Combinator. He used to be the Tesla vision guy that led the whole full self driving, and he has been at YC. And he had a slide that really resonated with me, which he said, if you look at the last three sort of evolution of tech, computing, networking, and cloud, they were predominantly driven by government adoption, by military funding, and others sort of moving into corporate and then eventually trickled down to consumer when things became cheaper. And we saw the last sort of tech movement, which is mobile. It happened the other way around, bring your own devices. And do you see today that adoptions are happening? It's like a big, large cookie. People are, eating it
Yeah.
from the side. And Microsoft being such a strong player at personal productivity. I mean, is there a trend that you see that is not obvious in business yet, but already happening at the edges?
Oh, absolutely. Right. So, I mean, it's fun to think that Microsoft's mission statement is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Now, we've had that mission statement for quite some time. And then you think about that in the world of AI, and it's absolutely so true and powerful and resonates in such an incredible way. When we look at I agree. It's both the consumer as well as the corporations that are coming together. And we're seeing the kids in college and gosh, I mean, even in grade school, right? How they're using AI in ways that we're not even thinking about today, right? It's second nature to them. And so there is this push from the consumer, from in particular, even the younger generations that are playing with them, evolving so quickly. And then from corporations trying to think, how do I better relate to my clients? How do I improve my employee experiences who are across all gamuts, right, of these age brackets? And how do I reshape a lot of the business processes that I've been driving to make them more efficient, more personal, more comprehensive in the way? And then how do I actually look at changing my overall business? All of these areas are where I think Microsoft, with our productivity tools, are in the middle of, with Azure and AI, and even the way you write code with GitHub. I mean, it's actually a really magical time to be in the middle of this. Our teams are adapting to this pretty quickly and embracing it, but it is something that you have to be intentional on, right? For some people, it will be organic. For others, it has to be very, very intentional. And we know that AI absolutely increases the opportunity to bend this curve of innovation with our clients. And we're seeing from our partners, everyone's pretty excited about it, right? They're absolutely excited about it, but they're wanting to understand, how do I show up with my clients to take advantage of it? And that's why we really talk about those 4 different areas, right? Really thinking about, how can AI help with employee experiences? How does AI help reinvent customer engagement? How is it reshaping business processes? And then how is it helping companies innovate the way they engage? So,
So let's come to the third point, business
mhm.
processes. So you were working at Oracle. At that time, I was at Honeywell. It was Allied Signal. Larry Bossidy came in from GE. We rolled out Six Sigma. Peter Senge just written a book about fifth discipline, learning organization.
Yeah.
So we're going through it. I became a master black belt. And one of the major challenge was, Allied, I think Honeywell at that time, like 150,000 people organization, and there were like 20 black belts. We're trying to change the organization, think through business processes, and it felt like forever. But in this time, like at this moment, the users are spending $20, whether the company paid for it or not. They're changing, right? So
Wow.
going back to your role as a change agent, the previous changes were driven by McKinsey and Booz Allen and other coming in and redesigning the org, remapping, and then there were restructuring, right? Happened in whether 18 months or 24 months and some sort of an event, right? Do you see this time the diffusion is a lot more pervasive? Like, what are you seeing? Because we haven't seen something like this before, right?
Yeah. I mean, anyone can be a change agent in their company. That's what's so cool. What we're seeing are a lot of hackathons or contests to build agents in companies. And the ideas are coming from every ladder of the company, every division of the company, whether you're in finance or HR or in manufacturing. And that's what's fun, is it's explosive. The opportunities are really limitless as far as what's happening. And where before kind of IT was at the center of the structure, you now have business people that don't even have a technical background are innovating. So a simple thing, we're talking about partnerships right here. I had a marketing guy on my team build an agent to help look at all of the different incentives we have for partners around the globe and distill that to make it really easy for someone. He spent maybe half an hour on building an agent off of a deck that was maybe 260 pages of all the different ways that we help to support partners. 30 minutes. Now he has how much time to focus on the next wave of innovation? And that was a marketing person. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing everyone in the company leaning in to being able to adopt this technology and be part of the change that we want for the future. So the biggest issue I see is those people that are hesitant or scared or don't know how to just put their hands on a keyboard and start practicing and learning, right? That is the scariest piece. And that's what I talk to a lot of people about, is that this momentum is happening so fast. We're not talking a decade. We're talking a year, 3 years. By 5 years from now, if you're not in the middle of all of this and really, really adept at it, I worry for people, right? And even in partnership roles around how you're building partner plans, how you're evolving the business, where is your time spent in impact or in back office type of work? Because AI can handle a lot of that back office work for everyone.
So I know you talk to a lot of leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a leader of an amazing organization, have a very large team. So when you think about transformation this time, leveraging AI, and let's focus on business process automation because those are multifunctionals, multiple task bundles. It's not me writing faster or coding faster. I have to align the flows of
Mm-hmm.
task bundles that are going through. Going back to our earlier experiences in the 90s where change was a bad word, right? People associated that with layoffs and restructuring,
Mm-hmm.
and they just didn't know what the estate would be, right? Because they didn't have an understanding of the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Today people have an understanding of the outcome because we're not letting go people because we have such a big backlog of products that we need to create and clean up so we can serve our customers better, right? So
Mm-hmm.
as people are absorbing the changes at the edges of these big cookies that coming in, do
Mm-hmm.
you see as leaders, as you're talking to, it'll be easier for them to transform the organization this time versus the 90s or 2000 or 2010s? What is your take? What are you hearing from them or the leaders of the problem that they're not moving fast enough?
Yes and no. So today, I think there's energy behind it. And I agree with you. Previously, if you were driving change, it was basically because you were trying to optimize something or get cost out of the system, or you weren't effective in a particular market. You were changing because it was not all the time, but a lot of the time was in reaction to something not going as well. Now, change is the innovator, right? It is the power source for where you're headed. I think it is going to be easier because the technology is far more friendly that we're all dealing with. And there's some excitement around it. And everyone can be part of that change. But it does require making sure that you're going back to some of the basics. Do you have security around your data? Do you have clean data? Right? So some of the principles that enable AI are really important that we're going back and we're looking at the foundational layer to make sure that we're going through this change with responsibility. And so when I talk about the change curve, we're as much talking about security as we are talking about AI. And that I think is a very interesting change and how everyone is part of that journey too. I think the last thing that I would say on this is that I think we're in a culture where agility is very valued. It used to be like you knew your discipline and you were the expert in your discipline. Today, it's that agility and having all these different experiences and being able to pull from one role you've had or one experience or one customer that you've worked with, and then being able to stack that together to transform and something clicks. That I think is where the energy is today versus just having one discipline.
And I can relate to that, like when I look at front end, whether it's marketing, sales, customer success, or sort of the back end team, product management, development, QA, right? the biggest challenge has been, at least for us and for me also personally, to stay connected with the customer, right? Because they have been limited to calls and meetings and travels. With Teams, 100% of our touches are now recorded, right? With running a copilot across this database, I have 100, like the most junior person in the organization, right? To everyone in my management team, we have no excuses not knowing where an account is,
Yeah.
just none whatsoever, right? So that itself empowers us to really align the organization, and people have already bought in. And the reason I was talking about the change, because it has a bad connotation, and media has fueled so much fear around this time around. I guess, they get eyeballs that way. But the reality, in our little organization, we see completely differently, right? Because we're seeing the benefits. Our bug lists are shrinking. Our backlogs are shrinking. We're understanding where the customers are going, right? So from a partner organization perspective, because we're a partner, we're bringing your solution to the market. Using your word agility, the speed at which we can move and the cost it requires, because speed has cost. So the cost it requires, it's just a fraction, right? So what we can create, it changes our trajectory in a fundamental way. So what
Mhm.
are you hearing from the partner? Who are the most excited and who are sort of the Luddites? Do you see a pattern?
So from the partners, the ones that are the most excited are the ones that I think have a sense of creativity and curiosity, and the ones that actually are more focused on driving outcomes with their customers to help them innovate. So it's the partners that are very curious about, how do I transform in healthcare? How do I help transform in manufacturing? I'm finding that knowledge around a particular industry coupled with the technology and understanding the real pain points, those are the real innovators right now. Those are the ones that are having the best traction. The ones that we're trying to encourage along the adoption curve, is how I would put it, right? Are the ones that still just want to take a product and sell a product and move on, right? And I think we're moving past that point in today's world. Our customers no longer want to buy technology. They want to buy impact and solutions, right? And so that ability to have a real conversation with a client, to be able to help solve or help them think out of the box in new ways, that's where the opportunity is today. And that's a different skill set for a lot of companies.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So if you go back to maybe 2 to 3 application space that you're
Mhm.
seeing partners are getting velocity, but they also have a lot of horizontal demand. So if one partner goes at it, you can take that and give it to another partner because it expands the overall pie, makes the customer more successful. Do you
Mhm.
have a couple of examples in mind that you are seeing in action that AI is really having, going back to your word, impact and outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a methodology that's working, and we have some really great partners like 3Cloud, for example, who are approaching going out to clients, and instead of starting the journey with almost like a design thinking approach to working with the client, they don't even talk about the technology. They don't try to position anything. They go into really just trying to explore, where does the company want to go? What are some of the challenges in the business? And then they evolve into understanding maybe 20 different scenarios that would be of critical impact to the business. Then they'll focus on one or two of these as quick projects. And only at that point do they start talking about the technology. What we're seeing is that kind of approach where technology isn't really even part of the discussion, but the quest for the innovation, the quest for bending the curve, or for different process mapping, that is where people are having the traction. That is what is gaining the confidence and the trust of the customers, and we're seeing like unbelievable pickup. And so that is where partners like 3Cloud are doing a tremendous amount of work. So we, as Microsoft, are investing quite a bit in what we almost call these pre-sales types of workshops, to help make sure that our partners are unable to do that, and we can lean in to help support them in those discovery sessions. But that also maps to getting what you talked about, a little bit of that fear or trepidation of the client over the hump. And it's really talking about what's possible versus worrying about the technology right out of the gates.
So for that kind of system level of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
are you kind of seeing a cross-functional engagement at a C level? Like it's not an IT project, it's a business. Like
Yeah.
what is changing, in the suite?
Well, there isn't a single CEO out there that isn't being asked right now, what does AI mean for you? There's not a single CEO, right? So it is the greatest door opener. But it has to what we're actually seeing is it's coming from both ends of the spectrum, right? The CEOs are trying to figure out what is meaningful for my company. So we're getting unbridled executive sponsorship on these types of projects where you've never seen that before. And things like Copilot, we're getting executive level sponsorship through the companies. They have access at the CEO level to what you even talked about, right? What the sales rep is doing on their account. They can just ask questions, and all of a sudden they have the benefit of every rank and file of the company instantaneously at their doorstep. So that CEO level sponsorship is the strongest I've ever seen. Even stronger than Y2K, like where they thought it was going to be mission critical, right? And then you're having the innovation coming from the frontline worker. Hey, gosh, I could do this so differently. My example of just a marketing person working with incentives and benefits for our partners. I can make this so much easier for all our partners and for our sales reps in a nanosecond. Wow, 30 minutes of work. I've just innovated something that was really hard. So we're seeing it from both ends. The biggest recommendation we have is start with something that touches many people, that's specific, is measurable, that you can see a return on investment on, and that everyone can feel the benefit from, which is great. So that's where we encourage people to have some fast wins that are very pervasive and easy. And then you can get into the more complex projects.
Amazing. So let's take that as a framework. I have two last questions because I know we have a meeting quickly. So if I take that framework, take multi-functions, multi-people, take something very specific, take something that is measurable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then has a time-bound outcome. So if I take those four as a framework, where are you applying that in your organization when you think about your partner organization next 12 months out?
Ooh, wouldn't I love to tell everyone here? But yes, we're thinking about it in a lot of different ways. So we are leveraging AI, everything from helping to build out our partner development plans and having AI help build those out and automate that process, to some of the reporting we do on the partners, to thinking about what are potential business ideas that we can do to take advantage of trends in the market, to practical things like, hey, why is it so difficult for us all to work together to get a customer success story, right? We all know this, right? You have to get all these signatures and why not automate it? So we're using it and looking at, can we apply an agent or AI to almost every single process to expedite it? Even on an opportunity, on a deal, are we taking advantage of the incentives? Is the partner maximizing their incentives on this opportunity to make it as profitable for the partner as possible? All of these things are just ways we're using AI to show up to make the experience better for our partners and for our employees and ultimately for our clients.
So Nina, I have one last question.
Yeah.
So if you go back to when you're graduating from college, and I see, my daughter, she's graduating. She was going to CS. She decided she's going to do philosophy and psych. And I asked her why. She said, I want to focus on ethical computing. So when you're graduating, if you have to go back and tell that Nina, fresh graduate, what are one or two advice would you have for her based on everything that you have learned, based on everything that's in front of you?
Yeah. So what I think has served me best and what I would love to go back and tell myself is to focus on my education and my experiences on what gives me skills and helps me to think differently and pushes me out of my comfort zone rather than going deep on one particular topic or subject. Because the ability to think, to problem solve, to drive change management, to have that agility is one of the most important things I think we need to see and embrace as our careers grow and as the world is changing. Who knows what our jobs are all going to be like 25 years from now, right? But we know that we have to be agile. We need to be complex thinkers. We need to be relationship based. There's no computer that's ever going to be able to replace the relationship and the trust we build together. And so I would focus on those things. I was, unlike your daughter, I did industrial psychology as my major, and I took computer science classes. So at Dartmouth, I think I took a little bit in basic, and gosh, I'm going to date myself, hypercard. I had to do the hypercard stuff, but it was a great foundation at that time.
Well, with that amazing note, I want to thank you for being here. I'd love to have you back end of the year to talk about 2026.
Absolutely.
But Anina, thank you so much. Again, thanks for your time. I know you're super busy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.